We are going to begin. We're going to begin the funeral service for Mr. Burrell Dworkin. If you have a cell phone, I'd ask you kindly to place it into silent mode or turn it completely off at this time. I'd also like to welcome everybody via live stream. On behalf of the family, thank you for attending. Services will be conducted by Cantor Howard Friedland. And he's going to start with the ancient tradition of cutting of the kriya, which he'll explain.
So good morning, everyone. Welcome. Shalom Aleichem, peace to all of you who are here from afar. We begin with kriya, which means tearing or rending the garment. And it is said in our tradition that when our ancestor Jacob heard of the supposed news of the death of his son Joseph, he was so overcome with grief that he tore his garment. And so today some people tear a piece of a dress or a shirt or a coat. Today we'll tear a ribbon, for those of you who are wearing them. And it's customary to wear the ribbon during the 7 days of Shiva, the first 7 days of mourning, or by extension the next 30 days of Shloshim, the days of mourning, and some people wear it beyond. It's a sign to everyone you come in contact with that your heart's broken, that you have a tear, and that God willing in the coming weeks and months, that tear will begin to heal as you come back into life. So I'll ask those of you who are wearing a ribbon to please stand, and I'll come and tear. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, the true judge. Adonai Natan, Adonai Lakach, Kishem Adonai Nivorach. God is given, God is taken away. Blessed be God's name. And it may seem counterintuitive to bless God at a moment like this, when your heart is broken. But in doing so, we acknowledge the all of life, that nothing exists without contrasts. And with all the good and light and love that was Burrell's life, the time has come to say goodbye on this plane, although he will live on in the memories of those of you who are here. And so we have come together as family and as community to express our sacred sorrow. We have come together to draw strength from one another and from the ultimate source of all strength. We've come together to affirm comfort and blessing in the face of deepest loss. And we have come to bid farewell to Burrell Dworkin. We share a common prayer that the source of healing sustain those of you who grieve. May those wounded with loss be blessed with love and compassion. And we pray that the journey that lies ahead lead from darkness to light. As it is written, thus says the source of hope, I will respond to your yearning. When you call out to me in the night, I will answer. I will be with you even in the darkest of places. I will give you strength. I will nourish you, and you shall know protection beneath the shelter of my wings. And I extend condolences to Burrell's family, to his children, Alan and Lisa Dworkin, Melinda Dworkin, and Cathy and James Arvanitakis, to grandchildren, Adam and Sarah Arvanitakis, to Stacy Arvanitakis and Jeremy Klein, to Bruce Dworkin, to Geoffrey and Aleena Dworkin, and James and Sarah Dworkin, great-grandchildren, 7 in number, great-great-grandchildren, 2 in number. It's quite a life and quite a legacy to leave. So to all of you, we express our condolences, and to those of you who are here and who are here remotely, my condolences to you too, because our grief knows no bounds of blood. When we're sick at heart and we're missing someone who's a friend, we hurt just as much. So to all of you, may you have comfort, wholeness, and compassion in the days to come. And let us say, Amen. The 23rd Psalm. Mizmor leDavid, Adonai ro'i lo echsar, Minot dashe yarbitzeni, al me menuchot, yenachaleni. Nafshi yeshovev, yancheni v'magle tzedek, yancheni v'magle tzedek, למען שמו. גם כי אלך בגצר מוות, לא יירא רע, כי אתה עמדי. שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני. תערוך לפני שולחן נגד צוררי, נשענת ושמן ראשי, כוסי רוויה. אך טוב החסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. אדוני רואי לא אחסר, אדוני רואי לא אחסר. And let's read together the translation of the 23rd Psalm found in the inside of your pamphlet. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Psalm 121. Esai nai el harim ein yavo ezri. Ezri meim Adonai oseh shamayim va'aretz. My eyes look into the void. From where will my help come? My help comes from my very source, the fashioner of order and of harmony. Your guardian will catch you when you slip. Your shelter will protect you while you sleep. Your night will not last forever, for your protector will surely bring back the sun in the morning. Your source will watch over you at all times. And as you came into this world, swaddled in loving embrace, so shall you leave. From Kohelet, the book of Ecclesiastes. A generation goes, a generation comes, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises, the sun sets and glides back to where it rises again. Southward blowing, turning northward, ever turning, blows the wind. On its rounds, the wind returns. All streams flow into the sea, but the sea is never full. To the place from which they flow, there they flow back again. And finally, birth is a beginning, and death a destination. And life is a journey, a growing from stage to stage, from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness and often back again, from health to sickness and back, we pray to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage. The Torah is the sacred book of the Jewish people, and it is some parts history, some parts myth, some parts taken from other cultures. No matter what brand of Judaism somebody practices, we all read the same words from the Torah. We have been told neither to add to it nor to subtract from it, and so far no one has done that, to my amazement. In it, from the best characters of the Torah, we learn how to live an exemplary life. And from the worst characters, we learn how not to live our lives. And it would be no surprise to anyone that the best and the worst characters are often found in the same person, as in life. We have strengths and we have weaknesses. We're all trying to answer the sort of the universal questions of how did we get here? What is our purpose while we're here on earth? What do we leave to those who succeed us? And what comes next when we leave here? And some of those questions we can answer and some we cannot. But we use the Torah, those of us who are Jews, to have a guide, what to do and what not to do. And I think that everyone who lives writes their own Torah scroll. We can learn from every life, everyone who comes to earth. And today we'll learn about Burrell's most interesting life and see what he has to teach us, what his Torah holds. And so first I'll call upon his daughter, Cathy.
My dad, he was a wonderful man. He was kind, loving, patient, intelligent, and generous. He was a smart man. There wasn't anything he couldn't do. He couldn't fix, he couldn't understand or explain to you. Growing up, he fixed everything in our house, from painting to putting up wallpaper to tiling the kitchen floor. The condo my parents had in Florida had wallpaper in every room. I don't think there was a spot that wasn't covered. He tiled the kitchen floor in our Lawndale house, and when you looked at the very far corner at the back end of the kitchen, it gets a little funky there. But my mom thought it was beautiful, and he was all about making my mom happy. Most everything my dad did, though, was perfect. He was so kind and loving and cared about people. When I started to help him pay his bills, we would sit down at his kitchen table, and every time we got something from St. Jude's, Boys Town, Red Cross, he always wanted to write a check for them. We wrote a lot of donation checks. When he still lived on his own, every morning he went to Sanders' restaurant for breakfast, and all the waitresses came to say hi to him. They all wanted to wait on him, not only because he tipped them well, but because he treated them with respect, always asked how they were that day. Now, that's not to say he wouldn't speak up if his food didn't come out hot. Hot coffee, hot soup, everything had to be very hot. But even then, he would say, "Honey, this isn't hot," with a soft tone, never a harsh, disrespectful one. There was one waitress there he got really close with, and she was moving to be closer to her kids. And to this day, I'm pretty sure he gave her a very nice going-away envelope. Patience. He always had time to listen to you. He would look you in the eyes and really hear what you're saying. And then he always gave the best advice. He never told you what to do, but he gave you his thoughts, maybe a few options, but really left it up to you to decide. He was never pushy. He was so good at teaching you to figure things out. Even when he was mad at me about something when I was young and sometimes stupid that I did, he never yelled. He never spanked. He would sit me down and talk to me about it. We would discuss it. Even at a young age, he would sit me down and discuss it with me. A soft, gentle touch, that was his way. I remember when Jim asked me to marry him. My dad was so loving, the way he asked me if I really loved him and can I see myself spending the rest of my life with him. I said, yes, of course. And he kissed me and said, okay, you have my blessing. It didn't take my dad long to become close with Jim. They would sit and talk together all the time, watch baseball, the Cubs, of course, football, and my dad loved to watch tennis, too. Jim also became my dad's barber. He would give him a haircut and a shave when my dad was older, and I can't tell you, they both loved the time together. He loved his grandchildren, too. Babysitting Adam and Stacy so I could go to work was their pleasure. Waiting for them to get off the school bus, going to Stacy's softball games, Adam's baseball games. He was a proud grandpa watching them play. Mostly, though, sitting in my dining room around my grandmother's dining room table, that I was lucky enough to have to keep our tradition of lox and bagel brunch going. Actually, not that long ago, we were all together, along with Sarah and Jeremy, of course, and my dad made the biggest, thickest lox and bagel sandwich you have ever seen. We all laughed so hard when he was eating it. To be able to get his mouth around it was amazing. I think he even piled scrambled eggs on top that time. But he ate it all. He was very full afterwards, but he had definitely enjoyed it. Oh, wait, I lost some. I can talk about so many things that make me proud of my dad. Oh, wait, sorry, wait. There are some really proud moments as a daughter I have of my dad. Like when he went to the Space Center in Houston and set up the broadcast for the whole country when Apollo 11 landed on the moon. Or when he used to broadcast the Bulls games. He would sit next to the announcer, Jim Durham, I believe, and Michael Jordan would walk past the table in warm-ups with powder on his hands and clap it on everyone at that table. My dad would always get powder on him, and I'm sorry, but I think that's really cool. I guess I didn't put these in order, sorry. Another very cool, wait, I remember. Another very cool achievement my parents did together was talk the CEO of Sears Roebuck and Company into letting them, with no experience in retail at all, let alone experience in the floral business, be the ones to open the flower shop in the Sears Tower when it was being built in 1973. They got the space over Sears Flowers, Amling's Flowers, which were really big flower shops back then. It was a very successful store, and at that point in my dad's life, he worked 2 jobs for many years. He drove downtown with my mom in the morning to the store, did the books for the day, ran out to do deliveries all over Chicagoland, and then went to his other job at WWII. When they opened, I was 16 and worked there also. And I remember sitting back in the back of the store, taking scoops of soil out of a big bag to make smaller bags to sell. I was mad I had to do such an unimportant job. I thought, and I remember my dad telling me I had to learn every aspect of running a business so one day I can do the same. That's always stuck in my head because he was so right. He taught me everything about business. When I got older, he even taught me how to do the books. Well, that was so my mom and dad could take off and go to Las Vegas, their favorite place to run for a long weekend. They were both great poker players. Today I do have my own business, and if it wasn't for sitting there making small bags of soil, I might have not had the will with all that. I might not have had the will with all that to do that. I can talk about so many things that make me proud of my dad, but the last I'll mention today is this is something I didn't realize fully until recently, and maybe it's because for the last 7 years I've been hanging out at Brookdale with him, which obviously has the older generation. But more is asked there about being a veteran. I would say my dad was in World War II in the Navy. Then I would say he was in the submarines, and people's eyes would pop open at that and say, oh, wow, the submarines? I learned that's a highly respectful field to be in. My dad was the radio man. He once told me he could tell what kind of fish was swimming by from the sound they were making. After my dad's passing, I got a text from my cousin. Oh, shoot, I skipped this page. This is about the locks, so I'm just going to fit it in here. After my dad's passing, I got a text from my cousin Bobby saying how he remembers my dad making his lox sandwiches and always putting butter and cream cheese on the same sandwich. He always tried to get me to do it, he said, but he wouldn't. And now he loves butter and cream cheese on his lox sandwiches, and he thinks of my dad all the time eating them. For me, my dad taught me to put mayonnaise on my lox sandwich. We always had the jar of mayo on the table for me and my dad. As my dad started to need more help in life, I moved him into senior living, and he did well there for a time. Found a poker game to play in, ate his meals with some of the men, sat in the library and read, but soon after he needed more support. That's when I found out being a veteran, he could get some companion help, and boy, did he luck out. In walks a lady named Kate. That was 7 years ago, and she has been helping him ever since. My dad grew to care very much for Kate. She has become like family. More recently, my dad started needing more help, so Carol came into the picture. Carol, you were also so kind and gentle with him. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for how you helped him. Boy, I really messed these up. Oh. The nurses and CNAs where he lived also took really good care of him, too. I know they all cared a great deal about him. He became very close with them. My father didn't suffer from an illness, even at 100 years old, where you would know his time was coming. The few times he was taken to the hospital, his tests would all come back good. The doctors were always amazed. We joked how he was going to outlive us all. I was recently told he needed to move where he can get more care. I talked to my dad about it, and he understood. He said okay so easily, but deep down, where he was his home. My dad left this earth his way. He was in the home he knew. He was comfortable. And with the people that cared for him. He was laying on his favorite couch that he slept on every night instead of his bed. It didn't take long. He didn't suffer for long. He closed his eyes and he was gone. He was mentioning my mom's name a lot the past few weeks. I think she was there waiting for him, calling for him. They're probably in heaven right now playing poker and having a great time together. I think that's thank you.
Cathy, thank you very much. You know, as you were speaking, I was thinking of a couple things. One is when you go to a Jewish cemetery, often you'll see at some graves a tree trunk that's cut short. And that's symbolic that a baby or a small child was buried there. There's no such marker for someone who has attained the age of 100 years. It's a ripe old age. It's not a tragedy. There's no symbol. There's no cut down tree as a life cut short. But I know that oftentimes people will think, oh, it's 100 years old. You know, the mourners are fine. It's 100 years old. But it doesn't hurt any less. You know, it's your parent who is gone. It hurts as much as those people who lost that child. I thought of something else. As you were saying that, Cathy, that your dad treated everyone with respect, everyone he encountered, waitresses, anyone. There's a saying from Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav, who was a Rebbe in the Hasidic dynasty, and he said, when you see someone sitting next to you, even the most humble person, make sure that you weigh your words and watch your hands, because that person may turn out to be the Messiah. And the lesson is that we treat everyone as if they were special, because they are. And that was the lesson that Burrell taught you and teaches us in turn, to treat everyone with respect. Because as we say in our tradition, when you look in the eyes of a person, that's where you see God. God is not lo b'shamayim, God's not in the heavens. God is each of us. And each of us are godly. When you look into the eyes of someone else, you see God. So to treat someone with ultimate respect is the ultimate mitzvah. So Burrell Dworkin attained the age of 100 years. He was born on the west side of Chicago. And when he graduated high school, he joined the Navy. And as Cathy said, he was on a submarine. He was a radio man. And he would listen for sounds in the water, and he knew it so well that he could tell what kind of fish were swimming by. He was in the Sea of Japan. He got an injury to his eye, and his commanding officer said that we're taking him with us wherever we go. Doesn't matter that he's injured. He's very, very valuable to us, and he did go with that outfit. He came back and he met his wife, Rita. They got married. They were married for 67 years. She passed in 2014. He got a job putting his radio skills to work. WIND, as a broadcast engineer, was in Houston for the landing on the moon. He also broadcast for Chicago sports teams, right? Blackhawks, Bulls, as was said. And there may be, I would hope there's a suit somewhere in his closet that has some chalk from Michael Jordan on it that you can keep as a keepsake. When he would arrange the broadcasts for the Blackhawks, the fans loved him so much that there was a Burrell Dworkin fan club, and the other on-air broadcaster was a little bit jealous of it, that Burrell was so beloved, but he was. As was said, he and Rita played poker. He used to play with his brother Morley and his uncle Blackie, and later in Vegas he would go with Rita to play. It was their favorite thing to do. He was also a bowler. He bowled on B'nai B'rith leagues, and used to be a huge league. I remember, my parents' time. Everyone used to bowl. And Burrell was the president of the bowling league. He was also the union rep for the electrical workers union. So he was, there was a pattern. He was the go-to guy who people looked for, probably obviously for his wisdom and for his even keel. As was said, he and Rita owned the flower shop together. He would do deliveries, bookkeeping, everything in the daytime, and then go to his job at WIND at night. Ernie Banks, Mr. Cub, was a customer of theirs as well. at the flower shop. Alan had said that Alan was married very young, started a family, and he would be working a job, and said that Burrell would call to check in every day. Call him every day just to check in, see how you're doing. Went to Cubs games when Alan was a team. He would go with Burrell basketball to Chicago Zephyrs that preceded the Bulls. They played at the amphitheater. And one day they went, this is a great story that Alan told me, and the guard at the gate wouldn't let, there was a guy in front of them in a car, and wouldn't let this guy in. And the guy got out of the car finally, and it was Wilt Chamberlain, Wilt Chamberlain of the great Philadelphia 76ers, of the Los Angeles Lakers, 1 year with the Harlem Globetrotters, by the way. And he was, what was he driving? A Volkswagen Beetle. Now, for those who don't know, Wilt Chamberlain was 7 feet 1 inch tall, and he had a modified Volkswagen Beetle that he drove. But those are the kind of experiences that Alan got to be a part of with Burrell's most interesting job. In addition to the flower shop and WIND, preceding that, in those years, Siegel and Dworkin Builders in Lincolnwood, in Peterson Park. Burrell was involved in building houses, and as was said, he was so handy, and that was another one of his talents. So what legacy does he leave? To be kind, gentle. As was said, Dad never yelled at me. He would sit down and talk, a non-judgmental person. And to respect everyone you encounter. That's a great legacy to leave. And as I said at the beginning of the service, though he's gone from here, you can't hug him or kiss him or talk to him anymore. He lives on in your memories, and I don't think that's just lip service. Our tradition says that those people live on in the memories we have and the stories you tell about his life. Those of you in the younger generation, and you'll tell it to your kids. I think there's a baby here, but you'll tell it to your children, and on, and they'll know about Burrell's life, and that's a great testament to a man who loved his work and loved his family. He was a very fortunate man, and all of you were fortunate to have him in your lives. Zichrono livracha, may his memory always be for a blessing. And may you rest in peace, Burrell. Rest in peace. I invite you, as you're able, to please rise for the memorial prayer. El marachamim shachen b'amramim Amse min chanachanat achat chanfei hashchina B'malot kedoshim utehorim Kezohar rakia mazirim Et nishmat Burrell Dworkin שהלך לעולמו. אנא בעל הרחמים הסתירהו בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתו. אדוני הוא נחלתו. וינוח בשלום על משכמו ונאמר Amen. God, filled with compassion, whose loving presence ever surrounds us, bring final rest to the soul of Burrell Dworkin, who has returned to his source. May the memory of his life shine forth like the brilliance of the skies above, as it brightens our own lives even now. May you, who are the source of all compassion, shelter him beneath the protection of your wings and bind his soul among the living, that he may rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. Please be seated.
This does conclude the service here at the chapel. The family will be receiving condolences at Max and Benny's, 461 Waukegan Road in Northbrook, immediately following the interment today. That address is on the folder. If you didn't get a folder before you entered the chapel, please get one as you leave. Interment will take place at Shalom Memorial Park, that's 1700 West Rand Road in Arlington Heights. The procession will be forming in the parking lot. Please keep in mind a few safety features while in the procession. Keep your bright headlights on at all times. Put your emergency blinkers on. Attach the orange funeral sticker to the passenger portion of your front windshield. And we'll also attach a flag to the roof of your car. And please stay as close as safety permits to the car in front of you. The following people have been selected to serve as pallbearers. When I call your name, if you please come forward. Adam, Geoffrey, James, Ben, Stacy, and Allie. At this time, I would ask that everyone please rise as the family, the cantor, and Mr. Dworkin are escorted from the chapel. Family, come to the family room.